Welcome back. Well, it's not official yet, but the smart money is on Bob Hawke announcing his resignation from federal parliament shortly. And it'll come barely 24 hours after doctors at Sydney's St Vincent's Hospital gave Hazel Hawke the all clear after an operation to remove a tumour on her pituitary gland. The move, however, is one Prime Minister Paul Keating doesn't really need at this time. A by-election in the Melbourne seat of Wills could see a big political win for the opposition.
It was 20 years ago that Bob Hawke began his climb to the top, the young and ambitious trade union leader capturing the nation's attention with his ascendancy to the top job in the union movement. By the mid-70s, as president of both the ACTU and the Australian Labor Party, he'd already been touted by Gough Whitlam as a future Prime Minister. But his desire for a safe seat saw his political career delayed until the spring of 1980, when he was elected member for Wills, joining Labor in opposition. It took just 18 months to snatch the Labor leadership from Bill Hayden, and then in the ensuing election to lead Labor to victory. That was to become the first of 4 successive election victories as Bob Hawke went on to become Labor's longest-serving Prime Minister. It was a record built on what he described as his unique relationship with the Australian people, a relationship characterised at times by his need to share his innermost feelings, on one occasion publicly agonising over his daughter's drug problems.
You don't cease to be a husband, you don't cease to be a father, and my children and my wife have a right to be protected in this matter.
It was an emotional Prime Minister too who wept during a memorial service for those who died in the Tiananmen Square massacre. But perhaps the most enduring image is the one he liked best, that of the knockabout Aussie, who was never far from the winner's circle but never lost the common touch.
I tell you what, any boss who sacks anyone for not turning up to die is a bum.
But while Bob Hawke was the public face of Labor, inside the cabinet room it was Treasurer Paul Keating who was seen increasingly as the real force within the government. In his first attempt to topple the Prime Minister, Mr Keating failed, but the die was cast. After 6 months on the backbench, the pressure from the Keating camp became too much as the leadership issue again came to a head in caucus last December.
The Parliamentary Labour Party have just elected a new leader, consequently a new Prime Minister of Australia.
Paul Keating had done what the Conservative parties had never achieved, ended Bob Hawke's reign at the top.
If this was 11 years ago, I'd be getting pretty thoroughly drunk.
As the new man assumed the mantle of office, Bob Hawke was throwing off the shackles. Amidst the farewells to old friends, he's planned a new life for himself and Mrs Hawke, laying the groundwork for a lucrative career outside politics. His place in history assured, the former Prime Minister has no doubts about how he'd like to be remembered by the Australian public.
A dinky die Australian. I hope that that's the way they'll think of me.
It will be testing times ahead for the Keating Labor government.